Sandip Ghose, you track this government closely. What, according to you, is the big message the 43 names contain? What the names that are on that list and the names that are not? What's the message you believe the government sending out?
First thing, I will just add to what Siddharth was saying. While he's correct about the finance ministry getting stronger, but I also see, Siddharth, maybe some independent charges will come within that. Like your corporate affairs could become, that's where Anurag Thakur and other elevations may play a role. So that was just a preface. But I think overall, Rahul, it is showing that this is a government in charge. That's the largest message, and they mean business going forward. And that's why, for example, when we were discussing Harshvardhan, while people can give it any spin, saying he's been made a scapegoat, etc., but he, if you didn't do anything there, then you will reinforce the image that you are tolerating failure. I don't think Mr. Harshvardhan's failure is in terms of anticipating the second wave or declaring victory early, but it was a sheer lack of management when the crisis happened. And by not replacing him, the government would have sent very wrong signals. And I don't know what will finally happen. While the health ministry will clearly be under the oversight of PMO and HMO, you might get a much stronger, maybe a domain expert coming into the health ministry. And all these signals, I think, will be towards that this government means business. In the earlier session with Gaurav, I was saying that every prime minister likes to leave a mark. And this is the time I think Mr. Modi, on his second leg of his second term, won't miss the opportunity of leaving his legacy. So he is going to drive that through competence. And, this whole message about the qualification, academic qualification of people, as Rajdeep was saying earlier, is to counter this narrative of this government lacks talent, depth of talent. So that's how...
no, but Rajdeep also had the pot shot on hard work versus Harvard, which is the Prime Minister's own personal credo that hard work matters, Harvard doesn't. And if you look at the narrative and the messaging now, a lot of emphasis on the educational qualifications of these ministers coming in.
Harvard is only one. Stanford, he is talking about Jyotiraditya Scindia. But Jyotiraditya Scindia also...
So you've actually got
some experience hand.
You've actually got, if you look at numbers, I mean, 11 ministers have been removed. 11 ministers 12, have been made, 12 have been made to resign out of 53.
Right? No, let's do the numbers. Just sorry.
12 out of 53.
No, it's 54. Out of that, you are reducing 7. So it becomes 47 plus new 43 additions, goes up to 90 minus 12. You now have a council of ministers of 78.
No, I'm talking the
54 was the original
54. Number. You've removed 12 of them.
Yep.
12 out of 54. Essentially, you've said 20%.
Yeah. Okay.
20% of your existing government were people who were non-performers.
If he hadn't removed them, you would have had a problem.
I'm just telling you a fact. This is a fact. This is an acknowledgement that you had a lot of dead weight in your government.
Rahul, in
this is an acknowledgement that, in critical, let's be clear, Dr. Harshvardhan has been seen, therefore, you're finally acknowledging that COVID didn't go the way you want. Until now, this government was refusing to acknowledge its failures on COVID management. Today, by removing Dr. Harshvardhan, at least you made one attempt. Now, there will be those critics who will say, well, this is not just Dr. Harshvardhan's failure, this is a collective failure. What about the PMO? What about the HMO? That apart, at least I think there's a recognition that someone had to go. And I think that's important because I think governments have to start saying mea culpa. For much too long, this government has been unwilling to admit its failures on COVID management. And Dr. Harshvardhan, nice man, very, very nice man, but clearly not able to manage the challenge. And he's paid a price. I'm not going to call him the fall guy. I think he just was not able to handle the scale of the pandemic, which required strong communication,
I would also lay some blame on the bureaucracy there. I've said this, that famous statement by the secretary, vaccines are only for those who need it and not those who want it. I think that was very wrong. Just one number.
No, also, just this, on Harshvardhan, let's also get, since we talk of intellectual health, I've got so many doctors, MBAs, it doesn't mean that because you are a doctor, you'll be a good health minister. You know, I think we've got to get rid of this. I think in the financial ministries is where you really need expertise.
Rahul,
you know, I speak to people, investors, they say when we speak to some of the people that we have in the finance ministry, you know, when Chidambaram was there, we were intimidated by his presence. Now, you know, we don't feel that, you know, we want people who will tell us more than we know. I think business wants that. They want expertise. So I do hope, that's why I said portfolios will be important to signal the intent that if this government means business, for God's sake, make sure those in the finance ministry are people who know their finance. If you tell me Anurag Thakur is the most capable finance person to be MOS finance, I'm not so sure.
But the MOS was always a political
appointment. You could use it somewhere else.
But I just want one quick interjection, Rahul.
No more political appointments. Let's have good people, the experts in the field, for God's sake.
If you take the health and education budget alone, and I'm not counting the budgets of the other ministries where the political head has been asked to go or has resigned, health and education alone would account for 8 to 9 or perhaps 10% of the existing budget. Now that is massive. The government of India's budget, 10% alone is being changed. So very clearly accountability is being fixed, and I believe that
I think that's a good signal.
The entire, and these are the two massive priorities. There's a smaller change in drinking water. Again, we can keep repeating it. Drinking water, Har Ghar Mein Jal, is supposed to be a massive program. There have been issues in last mile implementation there as well, Rahul. So it's not just a spring cleanup, it's not a midterm reshuffle, it is clearly resetting the priorities for 2024, because you will, minus the pandemic, another 6 months of its after effects, hopefully 2022, 23, just 2 years left. And if you have to win 2024 with a bigger margin, you need to do all of this.
The senior